Hi, Julie Jones from SSB Performance, Smarter, Stronger, Better Mindset Training, here with this week's Mindset Made Simple Tip of the Week, brought to you by Game Day Sportswear. This week we're talking about the proof is in the pudding, the process. And we all have them. Your team has them. No matter what kind of team you lead, you have them. You have stat watchers. You have outcome obsessors. You have shoulda, woulda, coulda-ers. You have overthinkers. We have all of those things. In fact, we've been on those lists too, or sometimes we're still on those lists. But what all these people have in common? They are outcome focused. And here we are in March Madness, all outcome based, win or go home. And we're in the middle of spring seasons where everyone is starting to get outcome focused, looking at stats, comparing themselves to other people, looking at other people's records. If we don't do this, we should have done that. It's exhausting. But we live in an outcome-oriented, goal-oriented world, and it's really hard to stay process-focused. So we're going to talk about how we might be able to do that today. It's difficult because everything that we do has a winner or a loser, right? And we've been told all along that goal setting is the way to go. But if we're only focused on winning and losing, and we're only focused on goals, then we're missing out on opportunities to really get where we want to go. So what do? We focus on the process, of course, but how do we do that? We have to be really, really aware of when our mind takes us into the outcome-focused abyss. And if you go to ssbperformance.com/downloads, you'll find an infographic on what I call "Where is your head?" And this is what Where is your head talks about. If we want to perform at our best, we know this. We know that our mind and our body have to be in the same place. The truth of it is our body can only perform in the present. So if our mind and our body aren't together, we're not going to be at our best. We're not, as Chris Lewandowski, my old strength coach, he's a director of performance at Hawkins School here in the Cleveland area. He says the number one rule of peak performance is being available. And if our mind and our body aren't in the same place, then we're not available, plain and simple. Our mind is the only thing that can go to the past, short of getting in Marty McFly's DeLorean from Back to the Future. But when we go there, we have a tendency to slow ourselves down because this is where we woulda, shoulda, coulda stuff. We get in all kinds of chatter that doesn't help us. Our mind also is the only thing in us that can go to the future. And when we do that, we start to what if, and you know what happens there. And then things start to speed up. So how can we stay one mind, one body together instead of floating back and forth from past to present for just a second, because this is where we spend the least time, to the future? How many times have we missed what's going on right now because we're worried about what might happen next and that thing doesn't even exist? Or how much time do we spend in the past trying to recreate it so that it's better than what it was? Well, it's impossible. We can't go back there. But when we slip from time zone to time zone mentally, it's because we're thinking about results. We're worrying about what results might happen. We're worrying about what results already happened. And that outcome-based focus rips away our opportunity to manage what's going on in front of us. And that does not allow us to perform at our best. So instead of looking at outcomes, it's better for us to go into intention setting, right? Rather than setting rigid goals, practicing intention setting allows us to show up in that way and engage with whatever's in front of us based on the intentions that we have. Maybe it's based more on the fact that I'm going to show up to this at bat and I'm going to give full effort because that's who I am. Or I'm going to show up to this competition because I am going to be fully competitive because that's who I am. And then I measure my success based on my intentions and how close I was to reaching those intentions. It's fostering a sense of alignment with our values and our aspirations. As Dr. Joseph Parent, who wrote the book, it's called, let me get it totally, the full title, How to Make Every Putt, The Secret to Winning Golf's Game Within the Game. He says you can make every putt. Well, come on. We're not going to make every putt. But his contention is this, is that we can make every putt if we control what we can control. Because the truth of it is, once we have finished our follow through, the ball is on its own. It's the same thing with when we throw. It's the same thing when we hit, when we shoot, when we take a shot with our foot. As soon as the ball gets off of us and out there into the air, there's nothing we can do about it. We can move our body this much when we're trying to get it to go into the hoop or when we're trying to get it to stay in the foul pole. To no avail. You can gyrate your body however you want. It's not going to change the flight of the ball. But what we can make is our intention, our process. We can manage our focus. We can manage the things that we know that are going to help us put the ball in motion in the direction that we want it to go. And as soon as it's gone, we let it go. And then we evaluate based on the controllables of our intentions or our process, as opposed to evaluating the result, because the result is outside of our wherewithal. You've got nothing to do with it after the ball leaves. Think about it as a pitcher. You throw a ball, and there are two people in front of you that have a decision on what's going to happen with that. There's a hitter and there's an umpire. And if the ball is hit back at you, now there's a host of people behind you that are going to have some say in what happens to the result of that pitch. Again, as soon as it leaves and your follow through is finished, it is what it is. Process. If we focus on outcome, we're going to drive ourselves nuts. We also can embrace incremental progress by breaking things down into manageable tasks. Success, however we define it, isn't achieved in one simple act. It's thing after thing after thing after thing stacked up. And if we don't acknowledge those things and let them compound, then we are never going to move in the direction toward the real result that we want. If we're only focused on the fact, you know what, I didn't make the shot. Well, guess what? You got open, your follow through was great, it got tipped, or it just was off just a little bit because of this little thing that you can make an adjustment on. But boom, 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 these things were good. And if you keep repeating those, you're going to get what you want eventually. But if we don't break it down into manageable measurements and focus on those, then we've got no chance of being able to use them again to make us better. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, says, we need to acknowledge and celebrate the small wins along the way, because progress, no matter how small, is still progress. Now, granted, again, we get paid to win. We get paid to sell stuff. We get paid to achieve. But when we don't, there's still progress in there somewhere. And if we can repeat that, it starts to compound. Michael Phelps, Olympic gold medalist, I'm sure you've heard the name since everyone has. He said, I focus on the process of becoming the best swimmer I could be rather than fixating on winning medals. By setting daily intentions and committing to the small steps, I was able to achieve extraordinary results. Now, granted, he's huge, but there's a lot of huge people out there that don't swim like Michael Phelps. He did it one intention and one manageable, measurable step at a time. Another way that we can try to stay more process focused in a goal and outcome oriented world is, dare I say, be adaptable, being flexible, understanding that when we come up against something, if it's not exactly how we thought it was going to be, it's okay. I just had a conversation this afternoon with a high school cross country coach that said that his kids sort of freak out when they're doing a tempo run, and at the end of it, there's like a hill or something, and they're like, oh, this isn't going to fit. What am I going to do? How am I going to get tempo going uphill? Let alone what happens on the course of a race. But we need to understand that whatever's in front of us, if we can figure out how to manage it, and we're not worried about the fact, oh, I've got to get this done. It's a tempo run and I have to run at this speed. I just take what it is and make the best of it. we can stay a little bit more process focused. I know that's hard, but that's the reality, that how many times in your life the things not go the way that you think they should. We have to make sure that we are being flexible. And another way to think about using adapting is maybe we think about fear setting. Tim Ferriss, an author, he wrote The 4-Hour Work Week and I think The 4-Hour Body and a bunch of different things. He talks about fear setting. It involves identifying and addressing the fears and obstacles that stand in the way of achieving our goals. Like, okay, so that's an obstacle. What am I going to do with it? We confront these fears head on by breaking them down into manageable steps, right? We take meaningful action and make progress by taking the big scary thing and focusing on what it takes to get through it. So instead of goal setting, maybe we start thinking about, okay, these are the things that are getting in my way. And I focus on overcoming those instead of results. Because if I can overcome the obstacles, man, I'm probably closer to the result that I want. So the idea here obviously is, yes, goals are important and outcomes are important. But if we're not focusing on what's right in front of us, if our head and our body aren't working at the same time, then we're not available to take advantage of the opportunity that's right in front of us. And if we can manage that and manage the next one and manage the next one, we're in business. Otherwise, we're all screwed up and we're not going to get what we want. There is no way in the world that we're going to get results if we're only focused on results. As I was writing this whole thing, I could think so much about this conversation I had with a softball coach, a college softball coach that I work with. And one of her players is so stat focused right now. She's like in competition, unbeknownst to the other person, with somebody else on another team. The other kid hits a home run. Now she's swinging for the fences. And this is a perfect example. And her stats are going shh, like to the point where if she doesn't change, she's going to be out of the lineup. So goal or outcome orientation changes the way we behave because it makes us look at what we want to happen instead of what we need to do. This is a perfect example of why outcome-based thinking is detrimental to our performance. So we can set intentions, right? We can be more adaptable. We can look at the things that could hold us back, the fear setting, right? We can break things down into more manageable things. But the whole point of it is that sometimes goals hold us back. Losers have goals, winners have systems. Sometimes goals hold us back because if we're looking at the goal, we can't see the thing that's going to trip us up right in front of us. The most important play is this one. The most important thought is this one. The most important thing you're going to say is this one. And if I'm thinking about what you're thinking about what I'm saying, no go. And we all know it. But we live in a goal and outcome-oriented world. And our challenge is to help those we lead be process-focused by whatever means it takes. What's important now? That's the question. Go to ssbperformance.com/downloads to get the Where's Your Head infographic and manage moments this week. Until next week, have a good one.